The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
All right, we're back. I don't know if this will end up being part one or part two, or if we'll mesh part one and part two together, but Royce White, my man, is back. All right, let's start with this because we didn't get into this last time. I think you consider yourself a populist and part of this populism movement. And honestly, I even had to look it up. I don't think a lot of people understand what that means. And I know Steve Bannon talks about that a lot, but let's get people on board. Let's help them understand what that is. So why don't we start there?
Well, I think a good way to define the populist movement today in America and the rising populist movement all around the world is a repudiation of the scientific, academic, managerial elite, I guess you could, say that populism is always in some some shape a repudiation against the cultural elite or the political elite, the financial elite, the elite of a given place. In our instance, it's the global elite, right? So we've kind of expanded the scope all the way out to the global, but throughout history, the populist revolts have always been against the elites of that given place. And, ours is unique in that we are fighting a global elite. We are fighting a well-established and dominant global elite, and their power is vast and deeply entrenched in our institutions, majorly influential all around the world. Us, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, the voice of the people is the voice of God, right? That's more of a Catholic Latin phrase, but in some sense, you think of a populist movement like the working class, the blue collar worker, the layman, the average everyday citizen, and their grievances and their aspirations to live a life that's respectable and meaningful within the given society, and we lose sight of that. Now some would say that that's just as much on the people as it is on our elites, and there's a lot of truth to that. But for the most part, there has been a concerted effort by our global elites to bastardize the value of citizenship worldwide, specifically here in America, though.
Okay, I got you. All right, that makes sense. And I think in 2016, I mean, that was Trump. Trump was the populist guy. I, I honestly, I don't know if he's that guy right now. That's what I'm struggling with. And we talked about this in the first part a little bit. And again, I'd like to get your views and get your stance on that. It's like, come 2025 inauguration day, even the inauguration itself, I look back at that and who's in attendance there? You've got Mark Zuckerberg, you've got Jeff Bezos, you've got Elon, you've got, really the folks that maybe I thought, hey, those were the global elites that Trump was fighting against for the past, honestly, for the past 4 to 8 years. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And
for
now all of a
sure.
sudden, those cats are at the inauguration. Not only are they there, it's like, wait a minute, who just flipped this script? You know what I mean? Give me your thoughts on that.
Uh, yeah, I mean, for sure, some of them would be counted safely within the globalist elite, at least for most of the MAGA movement and America First movement. And I would hope most of anybody across the political spectrum, although we know the left has kind of lost their sanity when it comes to their standards and their definitions, right? But yeah, the big tech guys, the financial elites, the Wall Street guys, the big hedge fund guys, yeah, for sure, a lot of them. And my take is that President Trump is a guy who has a bit of let's call it a petty side,
Mm,
in a good way, in that
yeah.
he kind of likes to make people bend the knee who were formerly his opposition, and the bigger the better. I mean, the more influential they are, the more powerful they are, the more I think he likes to make them bend the knee to the MAGA movement, and all of us kind of, or some of us at least, kind of get a joy out of seeing that as well. So I think that's part of it. I also think that President Trump believes he can use the presidency to influence some of these industries that are uh, very, very far along the path in their momentum. Nobody's slowing big tech down. Nobody's slowing down social media. Nobody's slowing down AI. So a part of me thinks that he has a strategic desire to genuinely win these people over. And like I said, the bigger the better. And look at, for example, Jamie Dimon, who is the chief executive officer of
JP
Chase.
Chase. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And he comes around. He says a couple weeks back in the Financial Times that the big finance does need to invest in essential supply chains being manufactured right here in America. So, and Jamie Dimon's no snuff. He's no small character in the global financial elite. He's a heavyweight, and
Heavy.
so for him to kind of back President Trump and MAGA's play, one, it's a testament of the fact that our policy, our foreign policy, our trade policy, our economic policy is correct, but also that President Trump does leave the door open for people to change sides, and
Yeah. Yeah.
either you leave the door open for people to change, repent, and come to Jesus, so to speak, or you kill them. I mean, there's only really two options at the level of the game that we're playing at now in this country and all around the world. Either we're going to let people repent and change their previous position, or you have to start killing people. And I don't say that lightly, and I don't
No,
say
that's
that.
fair. That's
Yeah,
fair. That's fair. That's totally fair. I get that. I get that. I guess my biggest fear right now is, for the past 4 years, especially, from during the Biden administration, it's like you've got these globalist oligarchs. Let's just call them that, right?
yeah.
And now you've got these technocrat oligarchs, like the new younger oligarchs, the Peter Thiels of the world and all that crowd. I mean, David Sachs and all those guys. So in my mind, I'm like, holy shit, is there the opportunity that Trump came in and said, you know what? Instead of the new oligarchs taking over the old oligarchs and crushing them, I'm going to bring these two together and we'll just collectively, old oligarchs, new oligarchs, let's be buddies and it'll be us against the rest of us. That's my kind of, oh God, nefarious take on what's going on.
I don't think so. I mean, it's a fair thing to put on the table. It's a possibility. It's certainly a possibility. I don't think anybody sane would discount it completely. I don't believe that's the case. I do think that President Trump genuinely wants to save the country, and it. President Trump is an interesting, nobody ever said he was perfect. He's an imperfect
Yeah, yeah,
instrument.
yeah.
And he
That's fair.
comes in, but and he, you got to realize he comes from a world beyond the world. He comes from a world of elites. He comes
Yeah,
from a
yeah,
world where deals are done that shape the fabric of reality in some sense, but your average person has no clue about how those things get done, let alone
absolutely.
what the genuine net effect is of those things in those deals, but they don't even know how the deals get done. And we live in a world where people have no clue how deals really get done. They have
No,
no
I
clue how
get it.
political deals get done. So the things that he has to prepare this country for in 4 years, over the next 4 years, or for this 4 year term, are I think well beyond what your average American citizen is obviously read into, because they're not read into it, and there's no need to know basis, as much of it is classified, but also, like, just what your average American citizen would even be familiar with. And I
Right,
don't mean to
right.
bastardize because the populist mode, another element, characteristic of the populist movement is we believe in the the unmeasurable intelligence of the average man. Right. We believe we don't I don't believe in this hyper wealthy academic elite. I think a lot of them have over credentialized themselves, over educated themselves, and become under intelligent and overly arrogant in their leadership and ideas. So I'm not one to promote or encourage or prop that way of the world up. It just is the way of the world. It's a way of the world that President Trump has to deal with every day, and unless the people get more involved, it will continue. It will continue that way. And I kind of think we like it that way. You know, my cynicism of the populist movement, our populist movement is our government is a reflection of the people in many ways, and our willingness to be gullible, our willingness to trade our freedom for convenience, our
Yeah.
willingness to go along with the way things are because it's easier for us, and it continues to get even more easier the better technology gets. So you know, there's some indictment on us as well, and even allowing the system to be set up that way. Our founding fathers were brilliant in that they constructed a framework of government that really places the power with the people, and we gave that up many times over the last 100 odd so years, or even more.
No, I totally agree. Who do you think right now in our current government is even considered part of the populist movement? Like, is Thomas Massey part of that? Is Rand Paul part of that? Those are the only two guys I like these days. Who?
You know, yeah, both of them say some things I agree with. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Rand Paul and Rand, obviously, who could say enough about Ron Paul, right? And the things that it's still a black mark on the Republican Party that Mitt Romney was the nominee instead of Ron Paul in 2012. That will forever go down in history as one of the political crimes of the 21st century, right? It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like, what in the world were Republicans thinking? But we know what they were thinking. They were part of the scam, the Mitt Romney echelon of neoconservative, silk stocking, silk tie, country club rhinos. They marshaled all their resources to make sure a Ron Paul populist type candidate wouldn't be the nominee. And it's can I say the same things about Rand? He in some ways, yeah, okay, I'll give him some credit.
yeah, yeah,
I think Rand is a little soft. I think Rand is a little soft around the edges. I'm just going to be honest with you. Rand is much more polite than I would be on a lot of things during his tenure in the United States Senate. And so he's abstained from some votes, and then he's went along with some votes, and I'm like, I'm not feeling that. But
yeah,
Thomas Massey's a different character altogether. He's definitely trying to outflank the president over on the right. That's for sure.
yeah,
And it's a little bit easier to do when you're a single congressman than it is to do when you're the chief executive officer of the United States. So he has some advantage in this ongoing battle between him and the president. But ultimately, you got to agree with a lot of things that Thomas Massey has said and stands for. What the beef is, the personal beef between him and the president is, I don't know,
yeah,
and we probably never will know to some extent. But it seems like it's more personal than it is policy,
yeah.
and that's my honest take on it.
Yeah, I just wish sometimes it's like when I look at Trump, collectively, the things that bother me are him leaning on Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham
Yeah,
instead of
fuck
leaning
those
on,
dudes.
yeah, fuck
Fuck
those
them.
dudes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of leaning on Thomas Massey and Rand Paul. And I'm and
Yeah,
I'm
well, I
talking in
mean,
general.
but here's the question, and I say this: Vox Populi, Vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice
Yeah.
of God.
Yeah.
Ask yourself this.
All right, I get you.
Ask yourself this, and it's an indictment of us. Okay, if you're a politician and the game is laid out to you as such, you have to win a lion's share or majority of the people's support or approval in either direction to have any hope of getting things done. There has to be a democratic consensus of sorts in order to actually get an agenda through. right? And so who has more power in this country? Is it the Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, neocon rhino establishment, the AIPAC donors, or is it the grassroots populist movement? If the grassroots populist movement was organized at the level Steve Bannon has done in a short amount of time, I mean, Steve, this is what Steve has done. Steve has taken uh, a 1/100th of the money, and he has substituted authentic and genuine thought leadership and rivaled the Republican neocon establishment with those means, but by no stretch of the imagination can we go dollar for dollar. And so could President Trump have even won if he didn't have the support of the Jewish lobby? The answer, in my opinion, I- I'd say I'd say he could have won, but he would have had to make that strategic decision very early on and outed the apex of the world, and then garnered more grassroots support to supplement what they would surely put against his opponent. And they did back his opponent, and they did call him anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
And you know, so it's a game. Again, it's a game that's being played that I think extends well beyond people's understanding and vision. And that's part of the problem in this country. Everything's happening kind of behind the scenes, in the shadows, but we kind of like that. I think we kind of like this, not we, me and you, but I think your average American citizen says they want freedom and the truth and transparency. But our actions say we like the superficial. It's
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said yesterday you say, well, you know, Royce doesn't talk in sound bites, he talks in frameworks. I wrote a post on X, and it was probably about 4 paragraphs. And that seems fucking long to people. I
Yeah.
actually
I
had
know.
people respond in the comments and say, I didn't have the attention span to read the whole thing. It's like, well,
Yeah.
you deserve to fucking die under communism. No,
Yeah.
and I don't say that. I don't say that to be rude or flippant or dismissive or insulting. I just mean, yes, we want the people to have a voice. We are a government and a framework and a country of we the people. But if we the people don't set a high expectation and standard for ourselves and thus our elected officials, then we deserve the government we get, and we deserve the consequences.
No, absolutely, man. And you know, here's the thing. I don't think anybody, myself included, really thought about politics until COVID happened. COVID for me, I mean, I wouldn't be doing this podcast if it wasn't for COVID. I wrote my first book because of COVID. I'm writing my second one because of COVID. I've dug in to the extent that I've dug in, honestly, to be able to even have a conversation like this with someone like yourself, who I find so nuanced, because of COVID. Because that Friday, I think it was like March 13th, 2020, when they said, don't leave
Lockdown.
your house for the
Yeah.
weekend. I'm not kidding. I was like, what the fuck? Don't leave our house. So I was born in Iran. My family's from Iran. And honestly, I remember sitting that night at like 6 o'clock. I'm like, this is wild. This is what I would expect my aunt and uncle to tell me through WhatsApp is taking place in Iran. This is not what I expected in the United States of America. And that day was when I was like, okay, something's going on. And I swear, I think from that day forward, something is going on. And I think
Definitely a turning point, no doubt about
turning
it.
point. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think people are just now realizing, wait a minute, we should care about our government. Because prior to this, it was like everybody's having fun. We're wasting our time on oh, cool, Facebook, great. Oh, Instagram, amazing. Oh, the Super Bowl's here, fantastic. Who's gonna perform at halftime? You know what I mean? It's like the Roman circus. It's like the
Oh, for
Roman
sure,
circus. You know
100%.
what I'm
No,
saying?
1000%. It
Yeah.
actually it rightfully should garner contempt from people about the people. And again, I say this is a populist movement. There isn't another option because of the situation that we're in. We're not going to have an aristocracy like like the Peter Thiels and some of these guys are saying is, we need an aristocracy. No, we don't need it.
Yeah.
We're not going to have an aristocracy. We don't want an aristocracy. But there is some rightful contempt towards the people, in that we We allowed this. It's part of the reason why I haven't really gained a lot of traction as well. And we talked about that. You know, I've been shadow banned on YouTube. I'm shadow banned on X. Facebook's suspended me. All the social media, TikTok. I mean, they brought me down to zero traffic after a lot of the things I was talking
Yeah.
about, the Uyghurs and, you know, black conservatives and whatnot,
Yeah.
went viral, and they put a kibosh on that shit right away. But I think a lot of it is also, I tell the people it's their fault.
Yeah.
And there's not really a great market for that, because everybody wants to be somebody else's fault. And that's, you know, there's a lot of blame to go around. I mean, we talked about the Israeli lobby and the Jewish lobby and their influence. And, you know, for example, to piggyback off of what I said in the last interview, we talk about the Jewish influence in this country. And in the black community, I'm very familiar with it, because they do have a very powerful hand in the entertainment industry. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
That's not really arguable. Anybody who would argue
No.
that is too dishonest to really have a conversation, a legitimate conversation. So the evolution of hip hop and hip hop culture and the effect it's had on the black community is inextricably linked to the Jewish businessmen and financiers that control that industry and or
Yeah.
have a major influence on that industry. But I don't place the blame solely on them. I said this in an interview with Jake Shields and Dan Bilzerian. I said, how do I not hold the black artists who signed those deals equally responsible or culpable?
Absolutely.
Well, because there was a big check involved, and they were seduced by the necessity of financial mobility. It's like, come on, if you're a Christian, that excuse ain't cutting it.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with white men. Let's say from the Nick Fuentes angle, and say, well, the white race is genetically superior, or the white race is superior in this analysis of American culture or Western culture, and how the Jewish lobby has influenced it or manipulated it, whatever he wants to say. It's like, okay, but it's that same case is an indictment of white people, because white people
Absolutely.
allowed it. They signed the deal. The European monarchs, they signed the deal. They signed on for fractional reserve banking. They signed on to let the Rothschilds, financialize their society, or whoever else. Do the Arabs, do the mullahs or the Gucci Bedouins there in Saudi Arabia have to be on the U.S. dollar currency? Do they have to be a part of this global financial system? No. They could revolt. They could say we
Yeah.
don't want to.
Yeah.
It's good for business. What's good for the goose is good for the gander, and everybody likes a little taste of the action.
Yeah.
And so
Absolutely.
where that's been the case, everybody is equally culpable for what we have, what's going on in the world, and especially in this country. We didn't have to do any of it. Our country might be the most culpable, kind of relative, comparatively, because we didn't have to do it. See, and this is the great scam of Western society, and a theory called the Mackinder World Island theory. Mackinder's, the geographical pivot of history was the academic, essay that was written by Halford John Mackinder, and Halford John Mackinder talked about the Afro-Eurasian world island, and how military technology, military advancement was going to change the way that war is fought. And as such, an empire like the British Empire, who was predominantly a naval-based empire, had to reimagine the way that they thought about geopolitics and resources. And he said, quite frankly, that 50% of the world's resources are located on the Afro-Eurasian world island, and that the person who mastered this was the theory, he who controls Eastern Europe controls the heartland. He who controls the heartland will dominate and have control of the Afro-Eurasian world island. That was Halford John Mackinder. People can look it up. This was about 10 years before the inception of the Federal Reserve in America. And, he said that you have to be able to walk to the things that you need. And I say all that to say America never needed to be involved and entangled in all the shit going on in the Eastern Hemisphere. We never needed to be a part of it. We were convinced, we were manipulated, we were gulled into being a part of that. They called us isolationists and said, oh, well, you have to help all these other people and freedom and democracy and making people self-determining and blah fucking blah. We had a choice, and we chose to entangle ourselves for whatever reasons, many people justified at the time, but we're indictable for that. The people have to wear that and wear some of that responsibility, and not to say, suicidal empathy. Oh, well, let's let the West in America fall then, since we made a mistake. No, we realized the mistake we made. We changed the fucking strategy. We changed course. And that's to be decided yet, whether people really want that. So that's my contention with Nick about the culpability, the historical culpability of influence in America and around the world is whoever you say the top dog is, whoever you want to label as the top dog. And the Jewish lobby has a lot of pull. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you say, international banking, and there are other banks too. I mean, never forget the French, the French had the Medici. I mean, there's the British Empire.
Other families. Yeah,
man, there's other mafias out there.
Yeah, there is.
And the Chinese, the Chinese, trust me, the Chinese believe themselves to be above all other races of people. They think everybody else is subhuman to them, the mandate of heaven. So the Chinese aren't taking marching orders from the Jewish lobby. They might be pretending like they're in a lot. They might pretend like they're in alliance. They might pretend like they have some interest that overlap, but they're not taking marching orders. Everybody's zooming everybody. Right?
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, that's one thing I think, like, where do the Chinese net out on what's going on in terms of the influence of, let's say, the Israelis, the Jewish lobby, all that on America? Where does Russia net out on this? Like, in my mind, I always think if everyone's in on
Russia's a natural born enemy of Israel.
Okay, interesting.
And
that goes back
versa.
to World War II, or
vice versa. I'm not saying it like Russia's. I'm not. One of the greatest scams in American history and geopolitical consensus is that Russia is the greatest threat to America. That Vladimir Putin is the greatest threat to America. It's Xi Jinping and the CCP by far and away, not even close. This again, America doesn't have a genuine foreign policy, an authentic foreign policy. Our entire foreign policy is Great Britain's foreign policy. Another indictment of the white man. If there's an indictment of the white man, it's like the British Empire's business model was drugs, piracy, and slavery. They had an Anglican church that defected from the Roman Catholic Church, and their forebears, the king who created the Anglican Church in the first place did it because he couldn't get his marriage annulled, and he was cheating. And it's like, I'm not judging. That's not my place. But there's a lot to be said about the rise of the British Empire and the role that the British Empire still plays today on American foreign policy. So, it's like, is it Israel's foreign policy or is it Great Britain's foreign policy? Israel, in fact, it just as a matter of fact, Israel is a subtext of a much broader foreign policy stemming from the British Empire.
I totally agree.
Our fight with Russia, goes back to the Great Game in the early 1700s through the 1800s. Our war with China in the Sino-Japanese Empire. Again, this goes back to an opium war with between Great Britain and China. And the Middle East is a complete construction of Great Britain. They gave them the land. I mean, they're the ones who owned the land, and then they allocated the land on behalf of the United Nations. Yeah. So it's and who the fuck is Great Britain to tell us who this entire European Union territorial integrity is so anti-America first. Again, where Nick is correct is where he says, look, the Europeans have already given their continent away. We have to be mindful not to do the same thing. Okay, well, then you have to separate race from nationality. Right. And we have to prioritize the national over the racial, Because if not, then the indictment on the West solely falls on the white monarchs and oligarchs of the European Union that A, thought up this academic philosophy of geopolitics we all live under, and B, sold out their own fucking people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
You know,
well,
I
what
have
kind of
gotta
fucking
second
suicidal empathy? I mean, how do you construct a religious monarchy that's scamming the working class and the people, and then you export it? You export the business model, extract the natural resources, and then and this is the West. This is the dark mark on the West's legacy as Western civilization is. They did drugs, piracy, and slavery. They exported the business model to all these other countries, and then they told their own people they got to let Muslims come live on their shores because they feel bad for what they did. I mean, that is the ultimate form of
That's
Western
wild.
cuckery.
Yeah.
Fuck you. And what's bad about it is the average person who works in London, right? The working man, he didn't make that decision. Like the
No.
working man in America, they didn't make the decision to pillage and pirate natural resources in some third world shithole. So why do they have to live with the fucking immigrants?
No, that's totally it, man. It's
Yeah.
like that Confessions of an Economic Hitman, John Perkins. I don't know if you know that guy, but like, you know, eh, oh my God, the IMF, the World Bank, all that shit,
Yes.
dude. It's like, it's insane. Okay, let me ask you this, because
Yeah.
actually I really want to get your opinion on this. You know,
Yeah.
the music industry and all that. I worked in the music industry for a while, so I know that game a little bit, and I totally understand it. And you know, it's right. That is definitely an industry. Entertainment in general is run by, you know, Jewish oligarchs. That's not a secret. That's freaking public knowledge. You know, I've seen things where they tie in in hip hop in particular. It's like, and I don't know if this can be this coordinated, but where I'm going is then it's like, okay, are the lyrics written in a way to cause that violence, and then that violence ends up going down to the people, and then all of a sudden you get more people in jail, and the same people that own the record labels own the jails. I've heard this theory. I forget if it was, you know, Ice Cube's been a little vocal
Yeah.
on this.
Yes,
Ice
he
Cube's
has.
been vocal on it, but I think he
And his
might be the
partner's
only one.
Jewish. His partner's Jewish, Jeff Quatnitz,
Jeff
who's a good friend of
Quanitz.
mine.
Okay,
Actually,
okay.
he's actually the one who introduced me and Steve
To
Bannon
Steve
in the
Bannon,
first place, right?
because they had the firm together. I
They had the
remember.
firm together, and Jeff
Oh
has been
shit.
Jeff has been very vocal in defending Ice Cube when Ice Cube makes these claims
Yeah.
about the power brokers of the entertainment industry. You know, Jeff has kind of become persona non grata in his own entertainment circles because of his
Interesting.
defense, you know, of Ice Cube's. No, look, there is a very, and I don't want to speak out of turn or speak for Jeff, but control your nigger, right? Is kind of the sentiment that I would say came from some of those, you know, some of those individuals who didn't like what Ice Cube was saying. You know,
Yeah.
you know, can't you control this guy?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And so in that moment, it actually proves the point. It actually proves Ice Cube's point,
Yeah.
and it proves a point of a Nick Fuentes that there is a coordinated,
Yeah.
kind of arrogance
Yeah.
and authority in the entertainment business and in the music business. I'm not a part of it. I don't know, and I just hear these stories secondhand, but it definitely exists. And to act like it doesn't is just an insult to the American. It's an insult to everybody. It's an insult to themselves, really. But you know, it definitely happens. I don't know if their social engineering is as good as people believe. It
Yeah.
definitely could be. I'm not
Could be.
sure.
Yeah.
It could be, but I think that level of corruption is metaphysical. I think there's definitely demonic influence involved, and there's a wickedness at a metaphysical level to have that level of success,
Got it. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, if to see what's happened to the black community, that's demonic. That's metaphysical. Yeah,
I got you.
that's supernaturally influenced by wickedness and evil. So, yeah, I mean, just look at what the rap music is like today, and it's got progressively worse. You know, everybody's like, well, you know, well, first of all, gangster rap only came around in the '90s. So there's only been about 30-year history of gangster rap. And the early gangster rap was nothing like it is today. Did they talk about shooting people in 187s and fuck the police? Yeah, that was a part of the overall message, but there wasn't this reckless sort of I'll kill you for no reason and I kind of take a personal pleasure in doing it.
Right, right.
And I'm gonna get as high as I possibly can, so that I don't feel any remorse about it either. That wasn't like even Tupac Shakur, right? Tupac was like, his music was like, I feel bad about the condition. I have to do it. I'm gonna have to kill you because if I don't kill you, you'll kill me. And that way, it's kind of a microcosm of our global military industrial complex. We tell the same narrative on a global scale, don't we?
Yeah,
If we don't
absolutely.
kill them, then they have to then they'll kill us. And that is the way of man. So, but Tupac was remorseful. He had a side to him that was conscious of how dark and sad and tragic that existence was. Today we celebrate it, and that's the distinction between the hip hop of the '90s and my childhood and the hip hop today. Is today it's actually celebrated, it's encouraged, it's something to brag about, as to where back then it was something that you may have done or experienced, but you didn't really want to have to talk about.
Yeah, I got you. Did you play in the Big Three at all? Ever?
Yeah, I played in the
You
Big
did?
Three last 4 years, not last summer,
Oh,
but the
nice.
4 years before that. Yeah,
Okay, okay. Because Jeff and Ice Cube own that, right?
that's right.
Okay, okay, all right. Oh man, interesting. All right, let's get into Jason Whitlock because
Okay.
I gotta have this conversation with you, or my buddy Brandon will kill me because
Okay.
literally, you and Jason Whitlock were the topic of me and Brandon's text messages for a good like 2 to 3 weeks. He's one of the places I discovered you on, and honestly, I followed Jason in many ways because of you. Like my favorite episodes were when he would bring you on, and I'd be like, "Oh shit, okay, cool. What's Royce gonna drop on me today? Let me pay attention."
Yeah.
Seriously.
Thank you.
And then it fell apart.
Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of know why it fell apart, but share that with people because I think Jason owes you a fucking apology.
Well, I actually spoke with Jason briefly through text message and I don't even know if I should say that. He might get mad at me all over again.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, yeah.
we spoke through text message a few weeks back, and he wished me well, and I think I actually text messaged him first from a different number because I was watching some of the content that he was putting out and the conversation that was emerging, with things that we had talked about, and a lot of people were messaging me saying, "Man, can you believe this is exactly what you were talking about a year ago with Jason?" And not about Jason, but just the topic of Israel and the whole Mark Levin situation. And they were like, you should try and patch things up. It'd be great to see you two come back together and talk about that. And so I texted him. I said, it's time. And then he texted me back and he was like, I wish you well. I unblocked you from X and, wish you nothing but the best. So I haven't heard back since. But I would love to get back on with Jason and talk about, especially now with all of the things that have come to fruition. I think he's probably in a much different place now than he was then. And I've watched, at least from what I've seen that people send me. I don't really watch the show
Yeah.
anymore ever because the attacks on me were so personal.
It was ridiculous. It was.
I mean, it was crazy.
I'm telling you, and I
I
mean,
rented you a car. It's like, I
yeah,
came
yeah,
out
yeah,
of
yeah,
town to
yeah,
do
yeah,
a
yeah,
podcast
yeah.
at your place, and you should be in charge of the trans. I mean, that was a petty thing.
Petty.
The real issue is, and I've said this for a long time, and I used to take flack for it by some in Jason's audience because they are a part of this demographic of people. There is a 501c3 evangelical and Protestant Christian
Yeah,
demo in this country that is
yeah,
a huge follower, followers of Jason's, and they are the bastion of New World Order
yeah,
in
yeah,
their apathy. The Christian community that talks about Scripture and professes faith in Jesus Christ, but abandon or resigns from the world and let Satanists take their country because politics isn't that important are the bastion of New World Order. They have to understand that, and they don't want to have to confront that. And this Christian Zionism thing is right at the beating heart of it. It really is. Yeah. So that, that was the real beef between me and Jason, where I was trying to push Jason to go even deeper.
Yeah.
Forget all of the, the Deion Sanders or whatever else, that's cool. But Jason's smart enough and talented enough as a writer and as a producer of programming to go deeper and where are and I don't, William Buckley and the National Review are a neocon rag, but you have to admire William Buckley had the balls to create a platform where people came on and they wrestled the intellectual vigorously. And that used to be the way of things, and we've lost that. We've abandoned that. So just like I say there's an indictment of the people, there's culpability on the people, there's also culpability on the content creators and the commentators for letting the conversation devolve into that level of shallowness. And that was my point to Jason, is you have an opportunity, you could even say you have an obligation or a duty to take the conversation as deep as it possibly can go, even if it means that you lose subscribers.
Yeah.
And hopefully you gain more. But if we all play the clickbait game, you get what you have right now, where nobody can really make heads or tails of anything. And I do think that's a part of the social engineering that was intentional and has been wildly successful. Is like our conversation is just shit. That's why people don't like listening to me. They're like, oh, I remember I used to watch the comments in Whitlock's on Whitlock's show, and people would say like, oh, it's not that deep. Oh, this is word salad. No, you're just not that fucking smart. And
Exactly.
I don't mean educated. I don't mean, formally trained in the academic world, because I wasn't. You just don't place a premium on first principles and philosophy and what it is to actually acquire knowledge and have some real confidence in the things that you're saying based on and rooted in fact or reality. We all like WWE politics. We all like politics with French fries. We all love, it's the Jews, it's the white man, it's the Negroes, it's the Chinese, it's you.
Absolutely.
You love your fucking Starbucks. You love your porn. You love that your bank is on a mobile app and you can move fake money around. You are the bastion of New World Order when you really, and then collectively you get enough people together who look at the internet. The internet is, people spend 60% of their time on the internet, and 60% or more is pornography. And I used to say on Jason's show all the time, we live in a jerk-off society, and people were like, that's too vulgar.
Yeah.
It's too vulgar.
It's actually literally, we live in a jerk-off society.
60% of your time is spent on the internet. 60 to 70% or more of the internet is pornography.
Yeah.
We live in a fucking jerk-off society. And that's fine. I don't mind if people jerk off. I'm not like a Bible thumping, don't jerk off. People are going to jerk off, but then at least have the balls when you're not jerking off to take some time to actually dive deep into but the two things go hand in hand. If you're too, it's rare that a person is let's say consumed by the impulse to jerk off and has the intellectual rigor to really wrestle with things. The two kind of don't go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Right. That's why throughout history you have very few great philosopher kings. Because the kings are usually, grandfathered into their position. They have these wild impulses and sort of narcissistic personalities. I don't mean to use a pop psychology word because I hate how women use the word narcissist now, but they do have sort of narcissistic tendencies. They're power hungry. They're greedy, and they don't really take the time to wrestle with things. Very rarely did you have that philosopher warrior king like an Alexander the Great, who unfortunately was homosexual historically, but Aristotle was a teacher of his, like an actual teacher of Alexander. So when Alexander was in a position of rulership, he came with a good balance of both warrior, of all three things: warrior, philosophy, and monarchy. Right. And so we don't even know how to demand that. That's why when I see people criticize Trump, I'm like, well, who would you want? What is your definition of leadership? Tell me what leaders throughout history that you look to, that you respect, or that you would trade for today. People can't tell you. They don't even know. They don't even know who they're they don't even know what Bill Clinton was responsible for, let alone FDR or Andrew Jackson. People don't even know. They don't give a shit. So if you don't give a shit, don't give a shit. But at least have the balls to elect people who you can obviously see do, and they're detail oriented, and they're willing to dive into the things as deep as necessary. If you don't want to do that, then stop fucking complaining. And that's my criticism of the 501c3 Christian movement, is they are very philosophical and abstract and esoteric in their framework or formulation of their Christian identity.
Absolutely.
It's like Jesus is going to save us and that's it. And then they like virtue signal over you based on scripture. But then if you get real technical with them on the scripture, they give you their interpretation of the scripture, which is like, you just told me sola scriptura, whatever the scripture says is what it is. But now you're giving me a fucking monologue about your interpretation of it, or your pastor's interpretation of it. Who do you think? You think I'm fucking stupid?
Yeah.
Well,
listen, everything you told Jason a year ago has aged completely in your favor.
Yes.
And it's absolutely vindicated you, and it's absolutely proven that you were right. So I'm gonna say this to Jason Whitlock right now. Jason, if this ends up getting across your radar, if you don't bring Royce back on, he should have answered your text of "it's time." He should have said, "It is, brother. When can you come on?" So Jason, if you don't bring Royce back on, you are a bitch. You are a complete bitch. I hate to say that because I do like Jason to an extent. Maybe I'll edit that part out. Jason, if you don't bring Royce back on, you're making a mistake, because honestly, the dynamic with the two of you was really good. I think the audience enjoyed it. It brought a whole different dynamic to things. So
Jason's my brother, and it's despite what he said and how personal it got, I never thought that I was that personal with him.
You weren't.
I thought I gave him an honest critique. You know what I tried to tell Jason was like, we're on the same team. I'm a part of the show, and I'm your little brother. I respect you in that way because you're older than me, number one, but our political gravitas is different. It comes from a whole different place. And he's been honest about that. He would admit that on the show. He's like, man, Royce comes on the show and he drops a bomb. That's how I got the name Morpheus, the moniker Morpheus on the show. And he's like, had me thinking about shit for weeks. And then something will pop up and I'll go, damn, Royce was right about that too. And I don't say that to pat myself on the back. I just mean, in that instance, I thought that I was encouraging Jason to go deeper towards the political and philosophical, which was my position to do as his friend and as a part of the show. And he took it very personal. And in return, he went personal against me. But I don't hold that against him, because the stuff that he said to me was not even, first of all, a lot of it wasn't true, but even more so, it was irrelevant, and it still is irrelevant.
It was petty.
Those things are irrelevant to the topic of Mark Levin.
Yeah.
You Israel first neocon scumbag motherfucker, and the entire Israel first lobby, who pretends like they support President Trump if he will do things that advance the Israel agenda. But if you go back in their history, all of them were staunchly opposed to President Trump. Mark Levin,
Ben Shapiro,
Ron DeSantis guy, Ben Shapiro,
all those guys,
all
absolutely,
of them, every
all
last
of them.
one of them. I know it here in Minnesota. Look, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Tom Emmer.
Yeah.
Tom Emmer, House Majority Whip, Tom Emmer right here in Minnesota, says that he's a President Trump MAGA supporter only because it's politically advantageous. Give me the fucking leftists like Tulsi Gabbard, who switched sides genuinely because they believe in the policy and they believe in the ideology, versus these people who are doing it out of political advancement. Give me the RFK Juniors, who was always a Democrat,
Yeah.
who was a leftist by many standards. Give me an RFK Jr. who genuinely sees it for what it is. And by the way, they called him anti-Semitic too. Don't
Yeah.
forget that.
I know. I
But give
know.
me those guys before you give me these turncoat, fake Tom Emmers who say, "Oh, we support President Trump," but then the entire Republican establishment in Minnesota goes on the record with the Minnesota Star Tribune, newspaper of record here in the state, owned by former state representative and Minnesota Timberwolves owner Glenn Taylor, who was a Republican state representative, and they hold a fucking symposium where all of these establishment Republican figures, including Tim Pawlenty, our former governor, get up on stage and say the MAGA base is a problem. The MAGA base is a problem for the endorsement process or for the caucus process. I mean, and Tom Emmer never comes out and condemns it. Tom Emmer never says, "Hey, Tim Pawlenty's wrong," or this entire Republican establishment needs to get on board with President Trump. He says, he talks out of both sides of his neck.
Yeah.
And in the public facing, he goes the MAGA movement so that he doesn't get primaried in his own congressional district. But behind the scenes, they work to undermine the MAGA and populist movement hand over fist. And then they have the audacity to try and question me. And then they'll say, "Oh, well, you march with Black Lives Matter, so you're not fit to be a Republican." Where were you fucking Republican? And I say this again, like I said yesterday. Where were all these fucking Republicans when George Floyd died?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whining, complaining, watching Fox News, and this is another reason me and Jason probably had a beef, because he wanted to lean into, the race thing, and it doesn't work, because no matter which way you draw it up, no matter how you slice it, no matter which way you circle the wagons, the race thing always comes back to culpability that is widespread. There's enough culpability to go around. And the great example, again, is the George Floyd situation. Was he an upstanding citizen? Obviously not. Did he have drugs in the system? Yes. Did he have coronary artery disease? It would appear so. There are a lot of things you could say about, should he have resisted? Of course not.
Right.
But that doesn't mean what that officer did that day was
Totally.
okay.
Completely agree. It's like all of what you said, followed by, did he deserve to have some white dude put his knee on his neck for an extended period of time? Hell no. That's just ridiculous.
And whether you say it was his knee or his back or his shoulder or whatever.
It doesn't matter. It's like what he did was not
But see, that's
appropriate.
what we gravitate towards when we let the race, and this I said on the show, on Jay's show many times, black versus white, make off with the green. That's the game. We pit black versus white,
make off with the green.
Make off with the green. That's the whole model. And so it's like,
and you could say Christians versus Muslims make off with the green too, because I think that makes off with the green too.
For sure. Well, yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, we should talk about that in a moment. But how Christian are the Christians and how Muslim are the Muslims?
Right.
But I know what you're saying. But again, even with the George Floyd thing, it's like, where were all these Christians and conservatives? Why didn't people show up to these Black Lives Matter events and say, Jesus Christ is king? Why didn't they show up and say, the Republican Party believes in the sovereignty of the citizen? We believe it because, the conservative movement as well has a few little, identifiers, a few hallmarks that we always revert back to. It's the military, it's the police, it's free market and free trade. It's fucking goofy. It's corny.
No,
it's corny. It's corny. It doesn't work.
It's like jerk off Lindsey Graham the other day had a clip where he's like, "We're killing all the right people and we're lowering your taxes."
That dude. What a fucking scumbag.
He's a scumbag.
What a little Finocchio scumbag, and he's just a Finocchio. It's just,
he is,
he's everything that's wrong with the country, and it's a great, again, when you have a conservative movement that wraps itself in the cloth of Christ, but its priority, or let's say its platform is military, police, and free market, free trade. You get John Milley, You get police officers who took the vaccine, okay, who took a vaccine, I think, at like 85% rate, as well as the military folks, the veterans. And you get your Elon Musks of the world who say H-1B visas are a good deal. Or you get your Peter Thiels and the Palantirs of the world. This is exact. You get the support of AI, unfettered, unregulated artificial intelligence. That's what you get if that's going to be your platform. And what Nick Fuentes is doing, and I think Tucker Carlson as well, even Candace Owens to some extent, is they're completely reorienting the base of the conservative movement.
Yeah, yeah, they absolutely are. They absolutely are. All right, to finish on Jason, one of my favorite things you said on there, you were talking about Gaza, and man, we could apply this to so many things. I'm going to try to do my Royce White imitation. You said, you could tell that to somebody who listens to Trevor Noah. You could tell that to somebody who listens to Sean Hannity. You can't tell that to anyone who listens to Steve Bannon. You can't tell that to anyone who listens to Alex Jones for 25 years. That was my impersonation of you.
Yeah,
But man, that was so
pretty good.
solid. That was so solid. You were talking about Gaza and the fuckery with that, but honestly, we could apply that to so many things. The one thing Jason did always compliment you on, and this is going to be a beautiful segue into our next topic, was educating him on the Federal Reserve. So let's get into the Federal Reserve, and we don't have to do the PhD level,
Yeah.
2-hour deep dive.
You want the shorthand.
Yeah, why don't we do this? Let's use today to the shorthand of that. I want to get the audience introduced to that and let them understand it. And honestly, I think our next episode, then we get into really the complete inner workings. But give us the shorthand so people understand what the Federal Reserve is, and quite frankly, why it potentially is at the epicenter of everything.
Well, follow the money is the age-old adage, right? And when you have an economy that's based on fiat currency, where your elites, your financial and corporate elites, can print money and bail themselves out when they fail, and then make you carry the note as the working man, as the populist working man, you essentially have a communist society already. And that's what I meant when I said the free market, free trade. If you leave it to the people who have led the conservative movement, is communism, it was the red scare of communism. No, we are deeply concerned about communism. So concerned, in fact, we want to fucking abolish the Fed. And people go, well, what's the connection there? If you have a financial system, a governing financial institution like the Fed that's in charge of your interest rates and in charge of printing money, supposed to be in charge of containing inflation. I think they create the inflation, but
absolutely,
it's categorically they've created the inflation. But if you have a financial institution that does that, and they socialize the risk for your corporations, is it a free market anymore? Is this Milton Friedman capitalism? If the central bank, the Federal Reserve, bails out the biggest corporations from failing, and then they make the people pay the bill, that's socialized risk. That's communism. That's a communist socialist form of economy and government. So, it's and the problem with it is, again, the financial jargon, like modern monetary theory, for example, is so esoteric. Your average person has no fucking clue what's going. Your average person doesn't have even the rudimentaries of finance. So it's hard for them to make heads or tails. It's also a great cover for the uniparty to play both sides and get you caught up in the theater of Republican and Democrats, when the money is what actually is the whole deal. The money, the way that the money works, the way that the money flows, and the things that it goes to buy is the deal. And in that sense, the Fed, and you don't have to listen to me, without getting too deep into the weeds. A great piece of homework is go watch when an institution is so big yet so corrupt that PBS Frontline has to come out and admit that the power of the Fed is dangerous, it's not a conspiracy theory. I mean, PBS is as vanilla and mainstream as media gets, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty much just kind of a standard sort of cog in the machine. When they have to come out and say the Federal Reserve is out of control, and they bring people who work in the Fed who are apolitical and say the Federal Reserve has too much fucking power.
Yeah.
That's a good place to start. That's a good way to understand.
Was that recent? They put something out recently
No,
or years ago?
that was in, I want
Or
to say
decades ago?
2020, 2021.
Okay, okay.
And they've
I'll have to
updated
find
it.
that.
They've done other pieces on the Fed since then. But that's a great place to start because
Yeah.
they tell you how the interest rates work. They tell you how the Congress is supposed to
Okay, okay.
regulate the Fed, and the Congress doesn't regulate. How can the Congress regulate the Fed when any number of corporate interests or lobbies can funnel money to the politicians through PACs or
Right,
donations?
right,
They're
right.
going to do what's in the interest of the lobbies. If they do what's in the interest of the highest bidder, it doesn't get any higher of a bidder. The bidder doesn't get bigger than the Fed, who can print the money. And there's a direct link between the financial institutions, the corporations that they supply working capital for, right? To keep the lights on, to pay the janitors, to pay the payroll and all that shit, while they get rich on paper and the stock portfolios grow. And the whole time they tell us we're going in debt, but you have $170 trillion net worth of the country, so there really is no such thing as debt. Sure, the fuck there is. There is such a thing as debt when the government, okay, has to work a deal with the corporations on trade policy, and then you get fucking crushed by the height of the insurance, the medical industrial complex,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
insurance companies, the hospitals, the pharmaceuticals. You get charged 3,000%, and I mean, it's actually obscene what's taking place. Even the illegal immigration thing is a piece of it. It's all connected to it, and that's why they don't really like to talk about the Fed, because the Fed is supposed to be this sort of isolated institution that really doesn't have much to do with policy.
Right,
Doesn't have
right,
much to
right.
do with what's going on in the country on an everyday basis. It's the whole deal. That's why after
No, it
George
is the
Floyd
whole deal.
died, I said, you guys want to go to the first precinct? You walk your ass down here around the corner to the Federal Reserve. Let me show you. When you say the whole system is guilty, I'm going to take you to the source code. I'm going to take you to the place where the corruption really stems from.
Yeah.
And people were out there looking at me like I had three eyes. I'm like, you don't even know. They got you down here burning a police precinct. The most exclusive and powerful institution in the state of Minnesota is 1.5 blocks away, and you don't even know what the building is, much less what it does.
That's how they want it. That's how they want it. Is it a private corporation? You hear that a lot. You hear that the Federal Reserve is a private corporation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid corporation with with the guise of government oversight. But it is a
Got it.
private. It has a board of governors, and the board of governors are the big financial institutions.
Yeah, yeah, okay. They just disguise it so cleverly in terms of having the ability of the average consumer to even understand what the hell it is. And then the other thing I find interesting is there's pretty much a Federal Reserve in most countries except a few of these Middle Eastern countries. Like, and by the way, it used to be, you didn't have a Federal Reserve in Libya. You didn't have a Federal Reserve in Iraq. You didn't have a Federal Reserve in Afghanistan. You don't have one in Iran. I
You
don't know
don't
if
have
there's
one in
one.
North Korea.
You don't have one in North Korea. Russia and
Yeah.
China, I don't know if they have it.
I
Maybe
don't
they
think
have.
Russia. I don't know. I think Russia is probably on the SWIFT banking system.
Okay, okay.
Because when they first invaded Ukraine, that was one of the first threats that Joe Biden made
To
to
cut them off of
to
that.
Vladimir Putin, was to cut them off
Yeah.
of the SWIFT banking system. So I don't know if they have a Federal Reserve, a central bank that's connected to the rest of them, but they're certainly a part of the Western banking system, or
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were. And then the Chinese, that's their power play, right? They've been threatening to put the dollar, to displace the dollar,
yeah.
on the global scale. And number one, I don't think they'll be successful in trying to do that. But it's difficult to say because monetary policy and the feeling about currency moves so fast.
Yeah.
It's a very very tricky thing, monetary policy. And so, as of right now, I don't think so because America has too much power and too much credibility. They have too much longstanding credibility as an effective economic system for the yuan to just come on the stage and say, hey, we're gonna do what they do. Now, as we move closer and closer to what our elites called, they coined the managed decline of the West, or the inexorable rise of China. As we move towards a China-centric global economy, where they are the king of manufacturing, more chance that they will be able to displace the dollar. And
Yeah.
so when you look at some of these other countries, whether it be the Middle East or Israel or the European Union, and who they're willing to side with, I think that they will do what's opportunistic for them. And in
Absolutely.
that
All
way, we're
these
doing
countries will.
ourselves a huge disservice. America is doing itself a huge disservice by playing into this global monetary policy and financial institutions that are supposed to all be, intertwined. That was Kissinger's great contribution to the post-World War II democratic liberal order, is that if we entangle everybody's markets
Yeah.
economically, that it will be a natural aversion or deterrent to war. Well, we see that didn't work. That's
And that was, I think, creating the petrodollar, right?
absolutely, that's exactly
Okay.
right. The
Okay.
petrodollar was the grand success, quote unquote grand success of Henry Kissinger and his
And
and his
Nixon. I think
and
during the
Nixon.
Nixon. Dude, that's right. Like, you know what's funny? I have a theory that
But
what
that's
I
also
mean,
why the Arabs and some of them don't feel like they need a Federal Reserve, because again, it all boils down to energy. They're trading
yeah,
in the
yeah,
liquid
yeah,
gold, so
yeah,
they don't need to. They're printing money. They're sucking it
yeah.
out of the ground.
No,
So
they totally are. They
yeah,
totally are. What I was gonna say was the petrodollar and Kissinger creating it, under the Nixon regime. I mean, I think Watergate was a total scam and it was just a
yep.
total nonsense thing. I almost feel like they did that to run interference so people didn't really understand that the petrodollar had happened. Something along those lines, but I think they took Nixon, they just took him out just to faux take him out because they wanted to make a diversion against something. What do you think on that?
I think Kissinger betrayed Nixon. And
Okay, okay,
it's actually interesting if you go and you read the notes. There are a number of times where, let's say, Kissinger did to Nixon what a Steve Bannon would never do to President Trump.
uh,
As kind of the intellectual thought leader of
yeah,
that time and the advisor. The Kissinger threw Nixon under the bus on a number of occasions, and how smart was Richard Nixon by comparison? Another one who was, I think, manipulated. There were a
okay,
number of policies that came out of the Nixon administration where you look back in retrospect and say he was naive. The EPA is one. The Environmental Protection Agency is one. Didn't see what was coming around the corner with that. Roe v. Wade happened under Nixon as well, and that was a disaster on a number of fronts. For America, and taking us off the gold standard, right?
yeah,
That
yeah,
also happened under Nixon,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the petrodollar. I mean, that's some heavyweight
But
shit.
don't you think if it wasn't if he didn't take us off the gold standard to implement the petrodollar, the United States would not be the United States. That's why we are the big kahuna, because everybody's gotta trade in dollars, right? Like,
No, scam.
no? Okay, interesting.
Me and President Trump part company on this. And if there was one thing that I could advocate for more than anything else, it's that we are being sucked into a debt trap, which will eventually lead us into a kinetic conflict. It already is.
Yeah,
Oh, again, and I say this of our foreign policy, and our Israel policy is more of an economic policy, a
right, right,
monetary
right.
policy. If you lay a map of the conflicts of the 21st century over the oil and energy pipelines, it's almost a direct match,
Yeah,
right? So I mean, there's a game, there's a battle and a war that's going on here that has very little to do with religious ideology or ethnic genes, right?
Yes, yes.
Genetics. There's a real fundamental fight about resources, natural resources, and energy. And I think the United States being the world's reserve currency in the end ends up being a trap in the sense that it's easier to tell a nation that they're going bankrupt when they're when the you know when their currency is inextricably linked to all these other economies.
Yeah, yeah,
Right, when the value of the dollar is largely based on every other country's interpretation or opinion or feeling about about its value, how is that America first?
yeah,
There's nothing
yeah,
America first about that. America first should be our dollar, and the value of our dollar is based on our production. It's based on people's desire to access our market of consumers, which is vast, and it's based on our innovation and the things that we turn out as a people. Why do we need to? Why does our dollar need to be affected by what goes on in Turkey? Fuck
right,
Turkey.
right, right.
Fuck Ukraine and their grain. We don't need the Ukraine's grain. We don't need bread from the Ukraine. That's a European thing. That's again, Europe is at war, and the Ukraine is at war. 30 million Africans are going to starve, so the stock market's down. It's like, huh? What
I
the fuck did
know,
you just say? What the fuck did you just tell me? What the fuck does that have to do with America? And but that is, in short, that is the prevailing geopolitical economic philosophy to this day, and I think it's dangerous. I think it's a trap. I would be fine with us not being the world's reserve currency and still being the world's reserve currency. Sure, we can trade dollars everywhere, but
yeah,
for our dollar to be our number one export, me when you have a fiat economy, a fiat financial system, and you print money well beyond your means, and then the entire world is on your currency, okay?
yeah.
And and your currency, it's almost crazy. The currency is fake, okay? Because when you're $38 trillion in debt and you still print money, it's a IOU, right? It's a
Yeah,
promise,
yeah,
okay? And the entire world is banking on literally banking on the fact that your dollar has value. What are we doing to ourselves?
it doesn't make any sense. And how are we ever gonna pay the debt back? It's never gonna happen, right? Like,
No,
how are we
we could
gonna
pay
get
the debt back. We could actually pay the debt back for sure.
really?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we could pay the look. You got first of all, again, the Western Hemisphere is our hemisphere, and I like when President Trump. You should watch President Trump. His moves are crazy. Like the hemispheric defense, the hemispheric foreign policy
Mm,
is spot on. Is just dead on the mark. Dead on
mhm.
the mark. And he's taking Mackinder's World Island theory and reversing it. He's saying, okay, you had this theory about the Afro-Eurasian World Island. Well, there's 50% of the resources that aren't counted, and they're over here with us in the Western Hemisphere. And we are already the de facto authority of the Western Hemisphere.
Right, right,
There's
of
no doubt
course.
about it. I mean, we are Canada, Greenland, South America, Central America.
Yeah,
That's all us anyway, right?
yeah, those are little
So
brothers.
yeah, come on. I mean, we subsidize the whole fucking thing. You come into our waters, you're gonna catch a Tomahawk cruise missile from a destroyer. So
Yeah,
it's our deal. So if we take those resources and we start to allocate them towards an America first economic approach, we can pay the debt back. The problem
okay,
with the debt, and some debt is good debt, right? Like in the real estate industry or business, you see that some debt is good debt. The problem with debt is if you go into debt to pay your bills, you're not going into debt to produce anything that's going to make any money.
right, right, right.
Right now, all we do is go into debt to create more debt. And the Federal Reserve, this is a real parasitical sort of thing where the Federal Reserve actually charges interest. They charge us a VIG on the money that they print.
No,
There's a
that's
$10
wild.
trillion, there's a $10 trillion of collateralized debt on the balance sheet that's completely fictitious.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, let the Fed eat the 10 trillion. Let the Fed eat the 10 trillion. Let some of these other countries pay in. You see these countries saying, hey, we'll give 500 billion, we'll give $1 trillion, we'll give 2 trillion, we'll give, you know, let them pay in. We could actually pay the debt down, but we got to start manufacturing things again, and we got to start selling things to other countries instead of buying them from everybody.
That's right. That's right. No, I totally agree with that. What do you think's going on in Venezuela? Is Venezuela there? I don't think they have a Federal Reserve, and I know they have a
Take them.
shit ton of
Take it.
oil.
Take it.
Take Venezuela?
Fuck it. Take it.
Well, that's what he wants to do. That's what he's
Gangster.
saying.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
we're in the gangster phase of this is a jump ball.
Yeah.
Russia's going to
It is a
take
jump ball.
Ukraine. Russia's
Yeah.
taking Ukraine. China's taking Taiwan. We'll shoot it out in the South. We'll shoot it out in the South China Sea to hold Taiwan and the first island chains and all our other allies there. That you know that we can't really tell whose side they're on. Philippines, Vietnam, Korea. Whose side are they really on? We don't
Yeah.
know.
No.
China's deeply infiltrated all of their governments. I mean, they're the first. They're the first. You know, they're the first outer rim of the CCP's
Yeah.
you know, global stronghold on the region is all of those little countries that we subsidize. Kissinger again, you know, now the Japanese are different because
Yeah.
the
Japanese are different.
Japanese and Chinese have a blood feud, right? And they'll
Yeah.
never let it
Yeah.
die. So
Yeah.
they're a little different. But Korea, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, I got questions about all of these countries, especially economically, because they're all proxies for Chinese manufacturing anyway. Right?
Totally. Totally.
Okay,
Totally.
so you take that and you say China's taking Taiwan. We could shoot it out, but all of the war game scenarios say that China beats us in that conflict. Okay, so China's taking Taiwan. The only thing left to discuss is Israel. And the question becomes whether America should subsidize Israel's defense and territorial integrity, or should the European Union? My contention is the European Union should fund Israel. What the fuck are we doing?
No, absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
European Union, why does a country who has 350 million people have to subsidize the defense of a continent that has 500 plus million people against a country that has 80 million people in Russia?
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
fuck kind of scam is that? Let Europe fund Israel completely and outright. And if they want to buy weapons from us, cool. They can buy the weapons from us. We'll create an uptick in the manufacturing of weapons. You motherfuckers can buy them at high dollar, at high cost. You know what? We're gonna overcharge you for you know, the 0.5% you've been giving to NATO for the last 20 fucking years. Okay, so we're gonna hit you over. We're gonna tax you, motherfuckers, since you want a fiesta all the fucking time over there in postmodern fucking Europe. We're gonna tax you for the weapons that you need to defend your territorial integrity against your neighboring enemies. Now the question becomes, where do the Arabs fall on the whole deal? And you know, there's nothing that suggests that the Arabs really want to decouple from the West.
Mm. And when you say Arabs, we're talking about like Saudi Arabia, UAE, the
None of
Arabs
them.
with the money.
None of them. No, I'd say
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
There is
Okay.
no real genuine evidence that the power structure of the Arab Union, of any of those Arab countries, really want to decouple from Western civilization or the Western economy. Or let's say, as a proxy for the whole topic, a rise in technological advancement. They love technology.
Yeah,
They
totally
need it. They need it because their region is not as inhabitable and lush as ours. So they need
right.
terraforming and desalinization and all these things. They're in a funky position, right? So
Yeah.
they got the oil. They can export the oil. They need science to try and exchange or transform their oil, their natural resource.
They really are in a desert, so they need science
Right,
to bring
right.
that to life.
So are they really going to try and the only way that the Muslims are a threat is by what happened in Europe, by unfettered immigration and a sort of ideological and religious takeover of the political institutions. That's the only threat that the Muslims really pose. I'm not buying this, second crusades where the Muslims line up and join hands and you see hordes of them try to overthrow Israel. I know that's what's postulated. I know that's, that was the mini skirmish that happened on October 7th. But those, the Hamas never had a chance to defeat Israel.
No.
Never in 1,000 fucking years did they have a chance. They did some damage and it was tragic. I hate to see what happened. Obviously, that was horrifying what the fuck they did. And I'm not a fan of the Arabs or the Muslims. I'm not jump on one side of this thing or the other. Fuck the Muslims. The Muslims think they can walk around and sort of browbeat Christians. You got Muslims, radical Muslims there in Africa, genociding African Christians, and then they're going to, pontificate to us about Muhammad and how Jesus can't be divine or can't be God. Fuck you. Fuck you. You fucking, you fuck you and your Sharia law and your fucking, and your Arab Muslim leaders who wouldn't speak out on the Uyghurs. Yeah, let's just call it what it is. All of those Arab leaders are sucking Chinese cock. That's what they're doing.
They totally are. Those guys are.
Totally are.
That whole Arab leadership, those guys are, they're just chameleons. They're chameleons. MBS, all those guys, they're chameleons.
Yes.
They're making so much money off their
MBS, educated at fucking Cambridge or Oxford or wherever the fuck is. All these Gucci Bedouins, they were educated. Again, another great example of British foreign policy.
Yeah.
All of these Arab leaders, all of these Saudis, they were educated at Cambridge and Oxford. Yes. They were educated in the United Kingdom. They're Muslim, they're Arabs. Their entire political philosophy was constructed and informed by the same Western philosophy as the rest of us. They know the position they're in. They know the role that they play. 100%. And that's what, look at Erdogan. Look at Erdogan. And I didn't like when the president said Erdogan is his friend. Maybe he is. Yeah. I think Erdogan's a fucking scumbag. Honestly, he's one of the worst in the whole deal. After October 7th, this little cocksucker is going to stand up before the Turkish people and say, this is a war, cross versus crescent, east versus west. And he's sitting there with our nukes. Don't tell me they're NATO's nukes. They're not NATO's nukes.
Yeah.
They're America's nukes. They're America's taxpayers' nukes. And this fucker's going to say that there's a war between the East and the West over Israel? Oh, come on, the Turks. Oh,
no, that guy's part of the program.
Come on, man.
What do you think of the new dude?
The old saying is this: the heart of the Turk longs for Vienna. Okay, seriously, this is a.
I don't even know what that means. What does that even mean?
That means the Turks want to be more European than they want to be Arab or Muslim.
Got it. Okay.
The heart of the Turk longs for Vienna.
Okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
That is interesting because Istanbul is one of the cities, I've been there a few times. It really is East and West. I mean, it is absolutely that. What do you think of the new president of Syria? I don't even know what his name is. The dude has switched names 4 times.
What are we doing? I don't understand it. I mean, I'll say this to go back. We talked about yesterday. We touched on it, but we didn't come back to it. I think this whole Osama bin Laden thing is a buried lead that everybody wants to forget about. I won't. I haven't forgotten about it, and then I won't let the American people forget about it. You mean to tell me that the number one fucking terrorist in the history of our country got a sea burial? Are you fucking kidding me? What kind of, don't talk about Building 7. It disrespects the memory of everybody who lost their life on September 11th. A fucking sea burial for the terrorist that was responsible disrespects the memory of the people that we lost on September 11th. He gets a fucking sea burial?
100%.
Okay, and go back to it. I remember the day after 9/11, I must have been fucking 13. I remember Donald Rumsfeld. No. It wasn't Rumsfeld. I'm sorry. It was Dick Cheney. He's on MSNBC, Meet the Press, and he's saying, we're launching a war on terror, and the Pakistanis have agreed to help us, find the people responsible and hold them accountable because, we have a developing relationship with them now that they are being allowed to have a nuclear program. This was in the early days of their nuclear program. Now they have fucking nukes. And nobody really knows how the tinderbox is going to shake out with them, India and China either.
Yeah.
All three of them have nukes. That's the real tinderbox in the world, to be honest, is India, Pakistan, and China. But anyway, so Pakistan's going to help us because they want to have nukes. Anybody remember where the fuck we found Osama bin Laden?
In Pakistan.
He was on a military compound down the street from a military base in Pakistan.
Yeah, I know. That's insane. It's insane. And then Rumsfeld, actually, you're right. That was Cheney who said that the day after. The day before, Rumsfeld was at the Pentagon talking about how we can't locate $2.3 trillion of military. Where did that money go? It's like, our floors can't talk to each other.
This is the 501c3 conservative Christian cuckery of the American right wing. Unbelievable to me that Fox News has the audacity to run these clips of Negroes stealing designer bags out of Nordstrom's.
Yeah.
When the Department of Defense lost $2.6 trillion and said, we don't know where it went. It's disappeared. And the American right wing is willing to accept that, and they hate when I call them out. But when your government steals, everybody's stealing. Now, I'm not condoning young black men that go into department stores and just snatch and grab. I'm not condoning that. It's reprehensible. It's disgusting. It's shameful, and it should be shamed. But they make that the focal point of their entire programming. It's fear porn about black people. So middle white America won't go into the black community and preach the value of the Republican Party platform. It's complete division. It's complete divide and conquer, fear porn propaganda. Talk about I don't want to hear Jesse Waters or fucking Gutfeld or Laura Ingraham or Mark Levin or anybody else on that fucking network talk about anything other than where our $2 trillion is.
Yeah.
Every day that should be the fucking headline until there's some accountability. This is why Bannon said Doge was great and Elon Musk contributed a lot. They have yet to cross the Potomac. You mean to tell me there's no waste, fraud, and abuse across the Potomac at the Department of Defense? You must think we're fucking stupid. We're not stupid.
Exactly.
We're not stupid.
Exactly. Jon Stewart had a good clip where he had some lady that was with the Department of Defense, and he was talking about how they've failed audit after audit for the past however many years. It's insane, man. All right, listen. I swear to God, I am going to make this you and Nick conversation happen because, dude, Royce, you are generational talent when it comes to this stuff. I know you were a good hooper, but god damn, honestly, man, you're just so insightful. Your grasp of so many things it's really second to potentially none. I mean, you and Nick have got to have a conversation.
I have great mentors. I mean, when you have an Alex Jones and you have a Steve Bannon and even Jason Whitlock in some respects, and plenty of great people who contributed to who I am now at 34 years old. I'm happy that I'm only 34. Hopefully I
can't even believe you're only 34. That's insane.
Hopefully I can get to the U.S. Senate and be the youngest U.S. senator in the country and do some good things before they try and take me out. But yeah, man, Nick Fuentes, look, a lot of the things that he's saying are true, obviously. I mean, if you deny, first of all, it troubles me to see the right wing say we can't be platforming. It's just shut the fuck up. You're a woke leftist liberal woman, is what you are. You should be ashamed of yourself to even allow yourself for your own political agenda and your own political view to let yourself revert back to the same mindset that we just had to wrestle away from these leftist sycophants to save this country, to even come close to potentially saving it, because it's not saved yet. So when I hear Mark Levin say, we're not going to platform this, don't even use the word platform. When I hear platforming people
totally.
shut the fuck up. You're a fucking leftist.
That's
okay?
exactly what they argued the past 4 years about.
Right.
And so literally these conservatives are turning into the exact liberals they've fought the past 4
Right,
years
but they were
about.
lying the whole time. They
No,
deplatformed
totally.
President Trump after 2020. After
Totally.
2020, when he said that the election was stolen, they tried to cancel President Trump. They weren't having him on Fox News. It
Yeah,
wasn't until
totally.
he said he was going to run again, and the headwinds were clear that DeSantis and Nikki Haley weren't going to have enough juice to cause a dent in the momentum.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they were back on board. It's completely advantageous, political.
Those two are horrible
advantageous.
too, by the way. DeSantis and
Still
Nikki
there,
Haley.
still there. People got to understand, as sure as the sun will rise, the Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis faction of the Republican Party is reorganizing, and they're going to redeploy right here in the midterms and right after the midterms to stab President Trump in the back. I hope he sees it. I hope the administration sees it, and I hope the American public is ready for it. Look, Ron DeSantis, anytime we ask you a question and you look down to see what the other people, fuck you. You get the fuck off the stage. You're not built for leadership. You and your team can coax up as many, anti-woke policies for the state of Florida as you want to.
Right.
I see between the lines. Real leaders don't look down to see what the rest of the candidates are going to say. Could you imagine me on the debate stage and somebody asks me a question and I look down to see what somebody else is going to say?
It's ridiculous.
Are you kidding me? And Nikki
What's
Haley finished him, turned it into a parking lot.
Yeah.
Fuck her.
She's awful. Signing bombs. She's horrible. What's your take on I was thinking about ending this, but I got a few more questions for you.
Yeah,
What's your
ahead,
take
man.
on JD Vance?
Vice President JD Vance stood in the breach in this nation's darkest hour, and he gets credit for that. But I don't trust guys who went to school at Yale. I just don't, and I may be wrong. And he could say, I don't trust people who led George Floyd protests to the Federal Reserve. Cool. I get it. And we're right we're right as American citizens to be skeptical of one another. And we're right as politicians to be skeptical of one another. And, me and JD are two people in the movement on the very younger end of things. I think he's 40 now, maybe.
Yeah, 40.
And I'm 34. I think he was the youngest senator in the Senate when he was still there in Ohio. So we're on the younger end of things, and people's opinions and views change, and we want to be open to that change, because we need as many as we can get, right? I mean,
That's true.
I'm all for Tulsi Gabbard. Here's my problem with it. Peter Thiel's a no-go. The Palantir, Peter Thiel aristocracy, conservative right or conservative Inc. is a no-go. And I don't know where JD really falls on that.
Oh, he's created by that. I mean,
I know that, but I don't. Look.
Okay. You think? Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you know what? I mean, I feel
Frankenstein can break his chains too. Never forget.
That's true. That's true.
So it's just like, if that was the case, you could say President Trump is a creation of the Democrat Party, or President Trump is a creation of the Upper East Coast elite.
Yeah.
But somewhere along there, he broke his chains and said, "Fuck you, people." Right.
Okay,
and so
that's fair. Will JD break those chains? That's fair.
Will JD break those ties? And it's going to be up to the American people. If the American people put enough pressure, like we should, then he'll follow suit. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. He'll have no choice.
What is that expression?
Vox Populi, Vox Dei is the voice of the people, is the voice of God.
Love that. I'm going to start using that. All right. What about Vivek Ramaswamy?
Very smart. Very, very intelligent, sharp. I was on his podcast, so he gave me some public support. I thought out of everybody in those presidential debates, Vivek was the only one even remotely close to something genuine other than President Trump. So I'd take Vivek over Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis in a New York minute.
100%. I remember covering all those debates, and literally, I think he won every single one of them.
I think it was an indictment. I think it was either an indictment of the conservative movement or a scam by the pollsters that suggested that Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley were in front of him.
That was such a scam. That was
That was
just
ridiculous.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I
that was
mean, I just
narrative
couldn't even,
creep.
and I couldn't even believe that Chris Christie even had the audacity to stand up there in the first place.
That
It
was
was,
ridiculous. That
yeah,
guy's
there should be a BMI
he's
index requirement for fucking world leaders. Is like,
I think you're
if
right.
you're too fat to see your own cock, you
Yeah,
can't lead this country. I'm sorry. It's just, I'm sorry.
that is very true. All right,
Yeah.
what about Marco Rubio? Where you not at?
Yeah, definitely Israel first, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, is smart enough. Marco Rubio is smart enough to read the tea leaves. He's smart enough to understand the momentum of things, and so he's supported President Trump and the MAGA movement, and he's done a good job. I think I would say he's done a good job on a number of things right now as a Secretary of State. If he was in the seat of power, do I trust him to be as America first as the America First movement requires or expects? No, I don't. No, I don't. That's my honest opinion. But he could be changed too.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. True.
this entire President Trump era has the potential to change a lot of people. We've seen that, right? It's changed the black community. It's changed people who were plumb Republicans. It's changed people who were lifelong Democrats. So I don't preclude just because I'm ultra critical of our own movement and people, in the movement doesn't mean that I'm going to preclude that they can have a genuine awakening. I think that's the danger that we run. Like I think Marco and JD and some other people who are in the administration
Yeah,
are on the fence on a lot
yeah,
of things. If we took their history and their present and we blend them together and we kind of create an average on where an average score of where they're at on things, their America First score.
yeah.
I think they're kind of on the fence, but like a Senator Ted Cruz isn't on the fence.
No, no, no. He is not on
So,
the
and
fence.
I think it's important though to separate like
Okay,
Marco
that's
Rubio
fair.
from Ted Cruz.
That's
And
fair.
it's important to separate J.D. Vance from Lindsey Graham, right?
That's fair.
Not that
Absolutely.
I have total and complete trust of either of them either, but we got to make some of these distinctions, or else I think we're playing a dangerous game.
No, absolutely. You know what? Listen, I think the fact that you are critical of your side, your team, your guys, if you want to even put it that way, honestly, to me, that gives you credibility because your criticalness of the right people and all the people in the conservative movement, to me, it shows your common sense. It really does. It shows your common sense, and honestly, it shows your integrity. All right, listen,
Well, we
this
have to
is
we have to look.
mm,
We have to do that. It's not
no,
you
totally,
know,
but most
because
people don't. Most people
but we
don't.
have to do it. We have to get our team together because the other side is completely lost.
Yeah, yeah, they
Except the
are.
people who are moving in our direction, like the people who are the technocratic, atheist, Satanist, men can become women and breastfeed.
Yeah,
They're totally lost. So if we don't get
yeah,
our team together and really
yeah,
be, sharp and sorted out, then we lose the republic and we die. I always say on my podcast, I can't guarantee we win, but I guarantee you if we lose, we will die. So we gotta have our team in order.
yeah. But by the way, who's your audience on your podcast? Is it black, white? Is it who listens to you? And then second question,
Boomers.
boomers?
I'm
Seriously?
the boomer whisperer. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Hey,
I got an
shit,
old
that's
soul.
amazing.
I grew up with two sets of living grandparents and a couple great grandparents too. So I think the boomers relate to me, and that's why I talk. I mean, I got the gray beard and shit. I'm an old soul, man.
No, you are an old soul. That's interesting. I'll tell you what, we also have to get you in front of Gen Z because I think Gen Z would resonate with you big time because they absolutely see through everything you see through. So, well, God, you are Gen Z actually, aren't you?
No, I'm millennial.
Oh, you're millennial.
Yeah, I'm
Okay, okay.
millennial.
Yeah, we'll get the Gen Z guys on
I
board.
like the Gen Z guys. Look, I'm more optimistic than ever that
Yeah,
I see a lot of young Republican men, a lot of young conservatives, a lot of young Christians, a lot of young trad Catholics who are like,
yeah,
the ways of the past are over. We're
yeah,
done with the bullshit, and we're not afraid to stand up and speak up for ourselves and demand better. And that's exactly what we need. We need young men in this country to
yeah.
have a say in the future of this country, no doubt.
You see him at these Turning Point USA events that they're having, the kid that cooked, Glenn Beck, the kid that cooked Glenn Beck, his name is Jeb Baugh. I had him on the podcast. He's great. Actually, I should hook you up with him. I
Yeah,
think you'd enjoy
that was awesome.
talking to that kid. That was awesome.
Can you imagine that Glenn Beck? I mean, one of the great embarrassments, and this may have, again, going back to Jason, and I didn't even realize this until after me and Jason fell out.
Yeah.
But the fact that Glenn Beck begged the Israeli High Council for citizenship
It just
is
froze.
probably one of the most embarrassing things I think I've ever witnessed. No American citizen should ever ask another citizen for another country for citizenship.
All right, everybody. Royce dropped off, so in case he doesn't come back, I'll do a quick close. But man, this dude drops nuggies. He really does. I love it. I love it. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I know there was some more F-bombs than normal, but man, it was real talk. It was real talk. I think he has such an interesting perspective, and it is pretty wild that he's only 34 years old. Former, high-level basketball player, played in the NBA, and I think it's incredible. I think his voice is definitely one that needs to be heard, more. So I'm really going to try and set up a discussion between him and Nick Fuentes. I think that would be interesting. And I'm going to try to get Nick Fuentes on here because I think I could have a healthy discussion with him as well. But anyway, all right, that's it, everybody. Call a spade, call your parents, and I hope you enjoyed it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.